Okay, what are the steps in getting a product to market? Let's sort of summarize what we've just said. Well, there's an old saying in this area, which is think backwards, act forward. What we're really saying is this: if I want to do a deal, that's my goal, is to do a deal, then in order to do a deal, I need a target who is willing to do a deal with me. But in order to find the target, I need to figure out how to sell the technology, because the target is not interested in technology. The target is interested in making money by selling things to customers. Even if they're way up the supply chain and it's not the ultimate consumer they're selling to, they are selling to other companies who sell to other companies who sell to other companies, and sooner or later somebody sells to the end user. But the economy is based upon selling. So the target has to know if it acquires this technology, it can make money off of it. And if it can't sell a product or make products cheaper, faster, better, so it can sell them more easily, why would it acquire it? And so I have to have a target who can sell. And when I have this, I say, well, if they're going to sell, then I have to figure out, who they're going to sell to and how they're going to sell it. So I have to figure out both the launch tactics, which are the 4 P's, the product. And notice the product may not just be a piece of foam or a funny piece of glass. It may be everything that goes with it to provide a complete solution. In other words, those funny glasses don't work for me unless it has both the ball and the string. I don't need instructions. On the other hand, a piece of equipment, direct numerical control machinery, that will make this kind of foam in the same way that your dentist makes a cap with a rapid prototyping-like machine, may not be a common occurrence in the factory. So when I look at this, who's using it, they may need some training. And if I look at where they're using it, in a machine shop, for example, if it's going into a machine shop kind of environment, it may be a dirty environment. There may be filings or dust, and I have to make sure that the machine is robust enough to handle that. And so if it's, people may be concerned, gee, I don't know, we want training and we want a warranty to make sure that we're not going to buy this and it's going to break in a month. Whereby on the funny glasses, you don't care if they break in a month because you're bored with them. So that's the product. Then I got to figure out what the price should be, which includes all that stuff broken out. I have to figure out how to position the product, what's the value proposition for it, that is, how do I explain that it has a superior price, performance, and ease of use over its competitors. And I also have to figure out how I'm going to place it, which is how I'm going to sell it and also distribute it and get it into your hands. But if I'm going to do that, well, then I really have to understand what other substitutes are out there in the market. What's the competition? Substitutes. My mom always said I couldn't spell well, and she was right. I have to figure out the substitutes in the competition. And when I'm looking at competition, I can't only look at things that are directly the same. Take this. It's a magic marker. Now, if this magic marker is made, well, here's one that's made by a different company. There's a substitute. See, it even looks different, has a slightly different look, feel to it. But these are direct competitors, but a big, thick black crayon might be a competitor for this. So I have to look at the whole range of competitors, and often there's a lot of different ways you can solve the same problem. Take measuring the distance to the wall. I can measure it with by walking it off with my feet. Sometimes manual labor is a competitor. I can measure it by taking a yardstick and flipping it over, or a ruler. I can measure it with a tape measure. I can measure it with an acoustic device. Hello, 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 hello. Measure the time of flight. Or I can measure it optically by shooting a photon beam at it. Beam me up, Scotty. Boom. There it goes back and forth. I measure the time of flight, and I know how far it is to the wall. All of those are competitors to each other if my goal is to measure the distance to the wall. And some are more attractive than others depending upon how accurate I need the distance to the wall, how fast I need to get it, why I'm doing it, how often I'm going to do it, and so on. And finally, to really understand all of that, I have to understand who my end user is, and if my end user has a need. Because if they don't have a need, they're not going to buy. What do we call these? Well, if we put this in marketing jargon down here, this analysis of the end user's problems and opportunities tell me if there is a competitive opening. If I look at the competition, the substitutes out there, I can tell if I have a competitive advantage. If I have a competitive open and a competitive advantage, I have what's called a window of opportunity. And if I know that there's a window of opportunity, I can figure out how to launch it and sell it. And so I have a strategy. And as part of my strategy, I can identify the targets, and then I can figure out what deal vehicles I want and how I am going to negotiate with that target, and thus I can get to a deal. So we work backwards, thinking about the kinds of things that, if I'm going to do this, what are the necessary conditions? If I'm going to do this, what are the necessary and sufficient, not only necessary, but necessary and sufficient conditions for doing? What's the necessary and sufficient conditions, la-di-da-di-da, all the way down, and then I play it up this way as I actually do the work. Similarly, when I'm designing my decision trees for a negotiation strategy or to figure out where the payoffs are, I start with what deal I want, I work backwards to figure it all out, but when I'm actually in the negotiation or trying to attain those payoffs, I'm going to play it forward. So that's a quick overview of the steps to the market. Where do we end up? We end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 major steps. We can subdivide these into a variety of larger steps. The first half of these steps involve market research. The second half involves strategy and deal making. So I will look forward to continuing these video sessions with you. In our next set of discussions, we're going to be talking about how you actually do the market research. We're done with the broad overview. We had to sort of talk about the things about the deal and how we begin to conceptualize this to know why we're going after the information that we're looking for in market research and why we do the strategies the way we do the strategies. So we're done going backwards. We're now going to start working forward to figure out how we do this. Remember again, as you're watching this video, that all of this is explained in much more detail and probably more coherently, since I'm not making it up as I go along, in both Commercialization 101 and in my book, The Art and Science of Technology Transfer. Thanks a lot. Look forward to seeing you in the next session. Hi, Ariel. This is the end. Eli, show this to Ariel. Hi, Ariel.
No,
I love you. Miriam doesn't.
I'm not dressed for this. My makeup, my hair.
Miriam's washing the dishes. She's not in the mood for this.
I'm ready for bed.
She's ready for bed. Anyways, I love you, Ariel. Look forward to seeing you in Crete or it was great seeing you in Crete if you get this afterwards. Bye-bye.